Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My wife used my love like an ATM swiped until I broke, then laughed about it with her friend. So I vanished. And what happened next crushed her world. My parents have been married for like 35 years. Growing up, I watched my dad do everything for my mom. Small gifts, thoughtful surprises, always going out of his way to make sure she never had to worry about anything. That's what love looked like to me. It was just normal, natural. So when I fell in love, I just did the same. I met my wife, Emma, at a friend's birthday party about 5 years ago. She was honestly the prettiest girl in the room. Blonde, sweet smile, laughed so easily. She lit up the space. And somehow, we clicked right away. I remember thinking, how did I get this lucky? I've never been the most confident guy. Not insecure exactly, but never the guy who thought he'd land someone like her. So when she showed interest, smiled at me like I was the only one in the room, I was floored. From that moment on, I was in. And I treated her the way I believed you're supposed to treat someone you love. I'd send flowers just because. If she casually mentioned something she liked, it'd be on its way to her before she finished the sentence. One time she said, "I love those little chocolate-covered almonds from that store in the mall." I didn't even respond. I just smiled. That evening, I showed up with a whole gift box of them and a note that said, "For the sweetest girl I know." She smiled wide, kissed me, said, "You're spoiling me, you know that." And I loved hearing it. It felt good. It felt right. Emma always seemed so appreciative. But looking back, I realized something. She never really gave anything back. Not that I needed gifts, I couldn't care less about stuff like that, but there was never real effort, not emotionally, not in small thoughtful ways. It was subtle at first. Like she'd expect me to plan everything: dinners, trips, weekends away. If something needed fixing, if a bill was late, if anything stressful came up, it was my job by default. "Babe," she'd laugh, "you're just better at this stuff." And I'd take it. No complaints. I guess I liked being needed. Or maybe I was blind. Probably both. Eventually, we got married. About 2 years ago. I remember standing at the altar, watching her walk toward me, and thinking, this is it. I was genuinely excited. I wanted this. I loved being her guy. The one who took care of her. Made her smile. I really thought we were solid. And honestly, life was pretty smooth in the beginning. No drama. Just the kind of quiet happiness I'd always imagined. But over the last year, things started shifting. Not all at once, just little things here and there. Emma started getting more demanding. Not in a loud way. Just steady. A designer bag here. A spa day there. She'd mention it casually. "Everyone at work is carrying those new Louis Vuitton crossbodies," she'd say offhandedly. A few days later, one would show up at our doorstep. Courtesy of me. I didn't think twice. I had a decent job. We weren't broke. I figured that's just what being a husband meant. Providing. Showing love. Happy wife, happy life, right? But her circle of friends became a bigger part of our lives. And I noticed something. They weren't like my friends. They were always around. Loud. Always gossiping, flaunting their vacations, designer brands, new cars, new nails. Emma changed too. She started talking like them. Dressing like them. Suddenly, restaurants we used to love were basic. She needed more expensive clothes, more extravagant plans. I remember one night. She came home after dinner with her friend Kayla. She plopped on the couch and said, "Ugh, Kayla's husband just surprised her with a weekend trip to Paris. Can you believe that?" I raised an eyebrow. "That's a little over the top, don't you think?" She laughed. "Not really. He said she deserved it after dealing with the kids all week." Then she looked at me. "You know, I work hard too." That stung. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. I kept trying. Kept giving. Even when she stopped asking how my day was. Even when she stopped checking in, stopped caring. I figured, maybe she's tired. Maybe she's stressed. Relationships go through phases, right? But somewhere deep down I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Then last week happened. I got off work earlier than usual that day. My boss stopped by my desk mid-afternoon, smiled, and said, "We're ahead of schedule on the Henderson project. Go ahead, take the rest of the day. You've earned it." It felt good. A little unexpected breather. On the drive home, I thought maybe I'd surprise Emma. Things between us had been off lately. Not bad exactly, just distant. Like two people living parallel lives in the same house. I figured a surprise dinner might help, something simple. Something to remind us of us. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed her friend's cars already parked outside. Kayla's little red convertible. Riley's SUV. No big deal, they were over all the time. Still, part of me hoped it was just Emma at home. Quiet. Just us. As I walked in, I knew something was wrong. You ever step into a room and feel it? That shift in energy, the sudden silence that isn't natural. That's exactly what I walked into. The chatter stopped the moment the door clicked shut behind me. Emma's head snapped up, eyes a little wide, before she pasted on this bright, too perfect smile and walked over. "You're home early," she said. No warmth. Just a flat statement, like she'd been caught doing something and didn't want me to know. I tried to keep it casual. "Yeah, boss cut us loose early, figured I'd come home and surprise you." She gave me one of those quick side hugs, the kind you give a stranger in a crowded elevator. No real contact. No real feeling. Behind her, her friends Kayla, Riley, and the rest just stood there, giving me tight, uncomfortable smiles. Riley looked down. Kayla adjusted her bag like she was ready to leave. The whole room felt frozen. Something had been interrupted. Emma clapped her hands suddenly, forcing a loud laugh. "Anyway, we were just talking about doing a girls' trip next month. Somewhere fun, right?" She glanced around at her friends. "Maybe Cabo or the Grand Resort." "Ugh, I need a break." They all nodded, murmured half-hearted agreement. But it was clear the mood had shifted. I gave them a polite nod, tried not to dwell on it. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was tired. It had been a long day. Later that night, Emma went to bed early, complaining about a headache. I stayed up, lying on the couch, scrolling my phone in the dark. Just zoning out. That's when it happened. A message popped up from Riley. Riley? We'd never really talked. She was always friendly in that surface-level way. But this was out of nowhere. Just her name. No text. Just a single voice message. My stomach twisted. I stared at the notification for a minute, thumb hovering over the play button. I don't know why, but I had this sinking feeling in my gut. The kind you get when you know something's about to change, and not in a good way. I tapped play. Emma's voice filled the room. "Seriously, he's like my personal doormat." My heart stopped. There was laughter. Loud, mocking laughter. Her friends. I literally have to do nothing. I cry a little, smile sweetly, and he hands over whatever I want. More laughter. Hers the loudest. "He's the easiest guy to manipulate," she added, like it was a punchline. In the background, I heard Riley say, her voice hesitant, "That's kind of messed up." Emma snorted. "Come on, Riley, it's hilarious. He doesn't even realize how pathetic he looks sometimes." A pause. My jaw clenched. Like literally last week, I just mentioned wanting that stupid spa retreat to Grand. She gave this smug laugh. Next morning, boom. Booked. Didn't even blink. It's embarrassing how desperate he is to please me. There was more laughter. More silence. And then her final line hit like a knife. Honestly, I could probably tell him to lick the floor, and he'd still ask if I needed anything else. The recording ended. Just like that. I sat there, phone in hand, heart pounding in my ears. The room felt like it had shrunk around me. I played it again. And again. Each time, it hit harder. I don't know how long I sat there, staring into nothing, my chest tight. That was my wife. The woman I had loved, spoiled, supported, believed in. Laughing about how easy it was to use me. In front of her friends. Like I was a joke. And the worst part? She wasn't wrong. I had become exactly what she described. A doormat. So desperate to be liked, that's what it came down to. I had let myself be used, over and over again, without even noticing. Or maybe I had noticed, and just didn't want to admit it. That night, after hearing Emma's voice mock me like I was nothing, I didn't sleep. Not a second. I got up quietly while she slept, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. No plan. No destination. I just drove. For hours. Every mile I drove, I replayed the stupid, pathetic decisions that had led me to this moment. The flowers. The spa days. Booking trips at the drop of a hint. Smiling while she smiled at me with that same mouth that laughed behind my back. Each memory made me sicker than the last. Something inside me shifted that night. A switch flipped. I wasn't going to confront her, not immediately. That would be too easy. Too predictable. And people like Emma, they expect drama. They feed off it. They twist it and make themselves the victim. No, she didn't deserve a scene. She deserved slow, quiet humiliation, the kind she wouldn't even realize was happening until it was too late. After hours of aimless driving, I pulled back into the driveway just before dawn. The house was still, dark. Emma was asleep upstairs, wrapped in my sheets, dreaming her entitled dreams, probably smiling in her sleep. She had no clue I'd even been gone. I didn't go to bed. I didn't even sit on the couch. I made a pot of coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring out the window. The cup warmed my hands, but I felt ice inside. Cold clarity. For the first time in a long time, I felt awake. I went over every moment of our marriage in my head. The way she smiled when I brought her things, the way she avoided anything that required effort, the way she'd always expected me to pick up the slack, fix everything, keep her world smooth and soft while mine frayed at the edges. And the more I thought, the angrier I got. Not just at her, at myself. How did I let this happen? How did I become this thing? By the time she shuffled into the kitchen that morning, rubbing her eyes, hair a little messy, trying to look cute the way she always did. I already knew exactly what I was going to do. "Morning," she said, voice light but a little unsure. I didn't answer right away. I let her sit in the silence. Then I looked up at her and said flatly, "Morning." No smile. No warmth. Just the word. I sipped my coffee, eyes back on the window. She hesitated, clearly off balance. Normally by now I'd be asking if she wanted breakfast, offering to make her favorite. But not today. I stood up without a word, grabbed my keys, and walked past her toward the door. "Wait," she called after me, confused. "You're leaving already? Where are you going?" I turned halfway, barely meeting her eyes. "Ouch," I said coolly. "Got stuff to handle." "What stuff?" she asked, frowning now. Her tone sharpened, more annoyed than concerned. I paused at the door and finally looked at her. "My stuff," I said calmly. "I'll be back when I'm back." And then I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't apologize. Didn't explain. It felt incredible. Like for the first time in our entire relationship, I was the one holding the cards. She had no idea how to respond to that. Over the next few days, I kept up that same energy. I didn't bring up the recording. Didn't mention a single word about what I'd heard. I didn't even drop a hint. Instead, I started pulling back. Little things at first. No more random gifts just because she said something cute. No more surprise dinner dates or spontaneous weekend trips. If she wanted something, she'd have to ask for it outright. And even then, I said no. Half the time, I'd just shrug and say, "Not in the mood," or "Doesn't make sense right now." She was thrown off. Badly. I could see it every time her little hints didn't work, every time she flashed that practiced smile, and I didn't take the bait. She was confused. Off balance. Clearly trying to figure out what was happening. I started thinking back, really thinking. All those times I gave in when I shouldn't have. The late-night sushi runs because she suddenly had to have it. Canceling plans with my friends last minute just because she needed me home, even when she never explained why. Dropping hundreds on some new gadget, accessory, or decoration she swore would change everything for her happiness, only to find it collecting dust a week later. And me? I always told myself I didn't mind. That it was what good husbands did. But now, I saw it for what it was. I'd been bending over backward for years just to get a sliver of appreciation or validation from someone who never once intended to give it. That realization burned. Every memory of her indifference fueled the fire. Every moment I'd tried so hard to be enough, to be seen, just made my determination sharper. No more. The version of me she thought she had on a leash, the good guy, the provider, the pushover, that guy was gone. She tried her usual tricks, of course. The fake sweetness, the sad puppy eyes, the subtle guilt trips. But now they bounced off me like nothing. One night, she even pushed it further, letting fake tears well up in her eyes. I really need that red Michael Costello dress," she whimpered. "All the girls have one. I'll look stupid without it." Normally I would have caved. Instantly. I'd have grabbed my phone and placed the order before she finished her sentence. But this time, I barely glanced up from my laptop. "No." "What?" she snapped, clearly stunned. The shock on her face was almost amusing. "Then ask them to buy you one," I said, cutting her off mid-sentence. Calm. Cold. Not even looking up. She stood there for a moment, speechless. Stunned. Then she spun around and stormed off. I could practically hear her grabbing her phone, probably typing furiously in some group chat about how awful I was being. I didn't care. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I started preparing. First, new bank accounts. Private. Clean. Locked. Changed every password that mattered: emails, investments, credit monitoring tools. Set up a new phone line under a different name. Burned the old routines, quietly and methodically. I wasn't taking chances. And every step made me feel more like myself again, like I was finally reclaiming my spine. I liked this version of me. I also met with a divorce lawyer. Quietly. A friend of mine had gone through something similar and recommended him. The guy was a shark, exactly what I needed. When I laid it all out, the spending habits, the voice recording, the financial records, he shook his head and chuckled. "Trust me," he said, tapping the folder with the printed transcript. "She's going to regret every word she said." Back at home, Emma had started to unravel. She knew something was different. She just didn't know what. She tried confronting me a few times. "Why are you acting so weird lately?" I'd just stare at her. Calm. Flat. "Is there a problem?" Every time, she'd stumble. "No, you're not yourself." Then she'd retreat, confused and nervous. She couldn't read me anymore, and that scared her. Her friends noticed too. They stopped coming around as much. When they did, I made a point of sticking close by. Quiet. Still. Just watching. And it worked. They squirmed. Avoided eye contact. Especially Riley, the one who'd sent the recording. She couldn't even look me in the eye. Probably didn't know if I was grateful, angry, or planning something nuclear. But I wasn't going to explode. That would be giving Emma too much closure. I wanted her to feel it. The slow, suffocating loss of control. 2 weeks after I first heard the recording, the whispers started. Her friends were backing away. I caught parts of conversations, them distancing themselves from her, talking less, replying slower. Without access to my wallet, Emma wasn't as valuable anymore. Without me funding their little fantasy, what did she have left to offer? Watching that realization dawn on her, watching her influence shrink day by day, was incredibly satisfying. Then, one night, she finally cracked. Cornered me in the living room. Her voice tight, a little breathless. She asked bluntly, voice trembling just a bit. Are you planning to leave me? I paused, locked eyes with her. Calm, collected. Then I smiled just barely. Why, Emma, would you deserve something like that? Her mouth opened slightly like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. Her eyes widened, and for the first time in years, I saw fear behind them, not fear of me, but fear of the unknown. Fear of losing control. She didn't know how to respond. I'd never spoken to her that way before. She was used to sweet, to soft, to me apologizing when I hadn't even done anything wrong. But that version of me, the one who'd bent and twisted himself into knots for her approval, was gone. Dead. And I could see it now. The more confident and grounded I became, the more she unraveled. It was like a mask she'd worn so effortlessly had slipped off her face, revealing something small underneath. Fragile, insecure, scared. It didn't make me pity her. It made my decision feel right. She didn't deserve kindness. Not anymore. What she deserved was the same helpless confusion I'd felt for years. And I knew just how to give it to her. The final blow had to be calculated, witnessed. It couldn't just be a private split. No, it had to peel back every illusion she'd built especially for her friends. I wanted them to see the truth too. The girl they laughed with? The one they admired for her perfect life? I wanted to show them what she really was. After that night, after the question and my answer, things in the house got strange. Really strange. She started acting panicky. It's funny how quickly people switch when they realize they've lost control. Her hold on me had always been smoke and mirrors, but now that the illusion was gone, she was scrambling. She started calling me at work out of nowhere. Midday, just checking in. Her voice falsely chipper. Just wanted to say hi. She'd say over voicemail, hope your day's going well, babe. Then a heart emoji or two would follow. I didn't respond. Not to the texts. Not to the calls. At first, I was honestly surprised how fast she flipped from condescending manipulation to wide-eyed insecurity. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Emma's entire identity in this marriage was built around controlling me, getting what she wanted when she wanted it. Once that stopped working, she was lost. And she knew it. One night she tried a new trick. Desperation in an apron. She cooked. Now, for context, Emma never cooked. Ever. Takeout, delivery, or me in the kitchen, that was the routine. But this night, I walked in to see her setting the table, eyes darting toward the door as I stepped in. I made your favorite, she said, with this fake bright tone she thought sounded cute. Steak, garlic potatoes, green beans with almonds. Just like you like it. The food looked decent. I'll give her that. It actually smelled good. She was trying hard. Too hard. I walked in slowly, took off my coat, set my keys on the counter. Then I paused. Let the silence drag out. Finally, I looked at her, eyes blank. Thanks, I said, but I already ate. That was a lie. I hadn't eaten, but she didn't need to know that. Her face crumpled instantly. Oh, she said, quietly, almost to herself. She looked down at the plates. Well, maybe tomorrow. Maybe. I cut in, my voice flat. Then I walked past her without looking back. I could feel her standing there behind me, stunned. Processing. Probably wondering how she'd lost me so completely. To be honest, I didn't feel good about being cold like that. It wasn't in my nature, but it felt necessary. Emma had to learn something she'd never been forced to learn before. You don't get to treat people like garbage and just flip a switch to fix it. She needed to know what rejection felt like. Real rejection, not emotional manipulation. Meanwhile, my lawyer and I had been busy. We weren't just filing papers, we were building a case. He laid out a plan. Sharp, strategic, ruthless. I followed every step. We gathered records, bank statements, credit card histories, screenshots of her ridiculous purchases, bags, shoes, spas, flights. Thousands spent monthly without a second thought. Then there were the texts. The ones where she'd demand money, guilt trip me, cry emoji, heart emoji, threats of silence if I didn't comply. And, of course, the voice recording. Riley's message had become the cornerstone of everything. I had plenty more than enough to show, without a shadow of a doubt, how manipulative Emma had been throughout our entire marriage. One day while I was at work, my phone buzzed. Riley again. Hey, can we talk? It's important. I stared at the message for a few seconds, hesitant. After everything, what more was there to say? But curiosity and something deeper, Maybe closure got the better of me. I agreed. Told her I'd meet her after work. I wanted to hear what she had to say face to face. We met at a little coffee shop just a block from my office. Neutral ground. Riley was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner seat, cradling her coffee like it was the only thing keeping her hands steady. She looked uncomfortable, nervous, guilty. She barely looked at me as I sat down. I'm really sorry, she began quietly. About Emma. About all of it. I just watched her, silent. She fidgeted with her cup, her fingers trembling slightly. I thought you deserved to know. I didn't waste time. Why send me that recording? I asked, blunt and steady. Riley bit her lip, finally meeting my eyes. Because Emma needed a reality check, she said. And honestly, so did I. That caught me off guard. Watching her disrespect you, she went on. It stopped being funny a long time ago. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, taking that in. It was a strange moment hearing it out loud from someone who used to laugh along with Emma. So why are you still friends with her? I asked, voice low but pointed. I'm not, she admitted with a sigh. None of us really are anymore. Everyone's been pulling away. Emma's realizing fast she doesn't have many real friends left. We talked for a few more minutes. Riley told me some of the things Emma had been saying lately. About me. About how weird I'd been acting. How she thought I was hiding something. Apparently, she even tried snooping through my laptop and phone. I smirked when Riley said that. Emma must have been frustrated everything was locked down tight. I'd made sure of it. I thanked Riley for telling me, and we parted ways. As I walked back to my car, I didn't feel any better. I didn't feel worse. I just felt certain that Emma was panicking, scrambling to grab the leash she'd let slip. But it was way too late for that now. The tide had already turned. That night, when I got home, I found her pacing in the living room, like a caged animal. Her hair was messy, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept. The second she saw me, she practically lunged. Where were you? She demanded, voice high and cracked. Why didn't you answer my texts? I stayed calm. Always calm now. Out. I said flatly, setting my keys down. Her voice trembled. I could hear the mix of frustration and panic bubbling. Out where? With who? I turned and smiled, but there was no warmth in it. With who? It's none of your business. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Why are you acting like this? She said, voice breaking. I cooked dinner again. I waited for you. I just want things back to normal. I stepped forward slowly, eyes locked on hers. Normal? You mean like when you mock me behind my back? My voice dropped into a sharper edge. Or when you bragged to your friends about using me? Her face went pale, like every drop of blood had drained out in a second. She stammered, reaching for the old mask. What are you talking about? She whispered, her tone switching to that breathy, innocent act she always fell back on. Don't. I snapped, cutting straight through her performance. I know everything. I've always known. She stood there, frozen. Her bottom lip quivered. I saw her eyes start to fill. Who told you? She asked, her voice barely audible. I let out a low laugh. Not cruel, just amused. Does it matter? I asked. You really thought I'd never find out? Emma stepped closer, slowly, like I was an injured animal she was trying not to startle. Her hand reached for my arm. I stepped back instantly. No contact. No comfort. She didn't get that anymore. Please, she whispered. Her eyes were pleading now. I was joking. I didn't mean it like that. I shook my head slowly, leaned in just enough so she could hear every word clearly. You meant every word, I said. And now you're scared, because I'm not buying your act anymore. She stared at me, stunned into silence, finally realizing just how much trouble she was actually in. Over the next few days, the change in her was impossible to miss. Emma became visibly withdrawn, barely speaking to me, always avoiding eye contact like a child caught stealing. The bravado was gone. The confidence? Shattered. She'd realized she had lost completely. The dynamic had shifted, and she had nothing left to hold over me. No leverage. No audience. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I was calm, focused, sharper than I had felt in years. I had a plan, and I was executing it flawlessly. My lawyer and I had everything lined up, finances secured, accounts separated, the evidence organized into one devastating, airtight file. Everything was there. Receipts, transactions, texts, the voice recording. She wouldn't know what hit her. Quietly, I'd also signed the lease on a new apartment. Clean lines, modern layout, downtown view. Nothing fancy, just mine. No trace of her. I didn't say a word to Emma. She'd find out soon enough. About a week later, Riley messaged me again. Turns out one of Emma's friends, Sienna, is throwing a birthday dinner. Emma's been invited, but she's hesitant to go. I could picture it already. Emma, nervously weighing whether to show up, unsure of her place now that everyone had started backing away. Her power vacuum was growing fast, and everyone in her circle knew it. According to Riley, this might be the perfect stage to expose everything. Publicly. I liked the way Riley thought. The day of the dinner, Emma approached me cautiously, shifting awkwardly in the hallway like a kid about to ask for a favor. Sienna's birthday dinner is tonight, she said. Do you want to go? I glanced up from my phone, pretending to think about it. Sure, I said casually, like it hadn't crossed my mind all day. Might be fun. Her brow furrowed slightly. Really? I smiled, calm as ever. Yeah, why not? It's been a while since I've seen everyone. She nodded slowly, still clearly unsettled, but not sure why. Okay, she said finally. Thank you. Now she was thanking me for something I used to just do. The shift in power was that obvious. That evening, we got ready in silence. She dressed nicer than usual, something classy, understated, definitely an attempt to salvage dignity in front of her friends. I put on my best suit. Tailored, dark, clean, deliberately sharp, deliberately composed. For once, I looked exactly how I felt, completely in control. The drive over was quiet. She barely looked at me, and I didn't offer a word. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy with meaning, with inevitability. Sienna greeted us at the door, too enthusiastically, hugging Emma like a hostess clinging to politeness. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes when she looked at me. I could see it, her wariness, her uncertainty about what she'd invited into her home. Everyone else was already there, drinking, laughing too loudly, drowning in superficial chatter. They were clueless for now. Emma immediately slipped into her usual persona, overly friendly, fake laughing at anything that moved. I stood beside her, unmoving, watching. She kept glancing back at me like she could feel the pressure building, even if she didn't know where it was coming from. Riley was across the room, giving me a small, knowing look. Her expression was clear. It's time. Dinner started off normally. Small talk, forced jokes, wine glasses clinking. Underneath it all, Emma's smile was twitchy, thin. She kept sipping water and throwing nervous glances my way. She knew something was off. Midway through dinner, Sienna turned to her. Her voice had that artificial brightness people use when trying to stir the pot. So, Em, she said, when's your next big trip? Italy, right? Emma froze slightly, blinking. I don't know yet, she said weakly, forcing a smile. Maybe soon. Sienna let out a light laugh, but it sounded forced, brittle. Oh, come on. You never skip trips, she said, giving Emma a pointed glance. You always said you have the perfect sponsor. Then, with the fakest smile I'd seen all night, she flicked her eyes toward me. The table quieted instantly. Utensils paused. Drinks hung in midair. Emma went pale. Her lips parted like she was going to say something, but nothing came out. Perfect. I leaned back in my chair slowly, letting the silence wrap around the room like a coiled wire. Every eye turned toward me, and I welcomed it. Actually, I said clearly, pulling an envelope from inside my jacket. Speaking of sponsorship, I placed the envelope deliberately on the table, the motion smooth and surgical. I think Emma might need to start funding her own lifestyle now. The air shifted. Everyone turned toward her. She didn't move, just sat there, staring at the envelope like it might explode. Then her fingers trembled as she reached for it, clumsy and awkward. She opened it slowly, unfolding the first page. Her eyes flicked back and forth. Page 1, then page 2. Color drained from her face in real time. She looked up, completely disoriented. What is this? She stammered, voice barely audible. Divorce papers, I said calmly, keeping my eyes on hers. I've already filed. Her whole body jerked as if she'd been slapped. Her mouth opened, shut, then opened again. But, I don't understand, she whispered, shaking her head. Don't you? I leaned forward slightly, tone sharp now, slicing through the tension. I'm ending this joke of a marriage. You lost your puppet. Sienna fidgeted nervously, obviously uncomfortable. Should we go? She asked, scanning the table. No one moved. They were locked in, eyes glued to Emma, to me, to the papers. The spectacle was too much. Too real. Emma's voice cracked. Please, don't do this here. Can we just go home and talk? I didn't flinch. No. My tone was cold, decisive. You never had a problem talking about me here before. Why stop now? Her jaw trembled, eyes glassing over. I'm sorry, she whispered, please. Save it. I cut her off, voice firm, rising just enough to command the table. You knew exactly what you were doing. You had a man who would have given you everything: respect, loyalty, a life most women would kill for. But instead, you treated me like your personal ATM. I could feel her shrinking. You bragged about how easy I was to manipulate, how pathetic I was for spoiling you. Gasps floated across the room. Some mouths hung open. No one interrupted. I stood slowly, buttoning my jacket with calm finality. I still locked on hers. Well, look at you now, Emma. Realizing you threw away the best thing you'll ever have. You didn't appreciate what you had. I paused. And now you've lost it all. A beat of silence, sharp and jagged. Whispers rippled around the table. Emma shrank lower in her seat. Shoulders caved inward. Face blotched red from humiliation. Riley looked down. Uncomfortable, but I caught the flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. Then Sienna finally spoke, her voice cautious but clear. Emma, is that true? Emma's head whipped around, eyes darting desperately between faces. She searched for sympathy, for defense. None came. Every single one of them avoided her gaze. She had nowhere left to hide. And me? I stood tall. From now on, I said, steel in my voice. You're funding your own lifestyle. I'm done paying your way. I said, loud enough for the entire table to hear, and covering your lies. I let that hang in the air for a moment. Then I looked around at all of them, people who had laughed at her jokes, listened to her stories, joined in her little performances. Just thought you all deserved to know exactly who Emma really is, I added coldly. Then I turned back to her, my voice sharp but calm. Enjoy explaining yourself to your friends. With that, I turned and walked toward the door, not rushing, not angry, just done. Behind me, I could hear her scrambling, her voice cracking as she pleaded with the room. Wait, please don't let him do this, she begged weakly, her words tumbling over one another. It's not what you think, just talk to me, someone please. But no one got up. No one said a word in her defense. Not Sienna, not Riley, not the friends she'd flaunted me in front of for years. They just watched in silence, some of them even smirking. They were enjoying the show, watching her fall apart. Driving home alone that night, the silence in the car felt different. Still, final, but not in a bad way. Something hit me. All this time, I was expected to give without limits time, money, patience, support. And I did, quietly, without asking for anything back. But no one ever told me when it's okay to stop. No one said it was all right to walk away when you're not appreciated, when you're being used. And I thought about my dad. Again, the way he worked, showed up, made sure we had everything. But the difference was, my mom appreciated him, respected him, every single day. Emma never did. That was the real difference. The clarity hit hard. Giving isn't weakness, but giving to someone who only takes, that's a slow form of self-destruction. Real strength is knowing when enough is enough. And finally, I knew. That night, my phone went nuts. Missed calls, voicemails, texts. Emma must have called 20 times, if not more. The voicemails started with rage, her voice full of disbelief and fire. You're seriously doing this? After everything I've done for you? You ungrateful piece of... Then the anger melted into something else. Tears. Please, Vincent. I didn't mean it. I swear, I didn't mean any of it. Just come home. Please. Please just talk to me. I can't do this without you. Then desperation. I'll change. I swear. I'll do better. You won't even recognize me. Just come back. I'll cook. I'll be everything you wanted. I didn't answer a single one. I listened to each message once, then deleted them. She had lost the right to any sympathy from me. That part of me was closed off. Permanently. Then came the unexpected one. A message from Sienna. I figured maybe she wanted to follow up on the wreckage, ask about what came next. But no, she straight up asked if I'd be down to grab dinner sometime. Just us. I blinked at my phone in disbelief. This was someone who had sat across from me for years, laughing right alongside Emma, mocking me behind my back. And now, what, she thought she had a shot. I laughed out loud. A real, sharp, amused laugh. I sent her a single laughing emoji, deleted her number, and blocked her. It felt damn good. Not just because of her, but because I realized I was done. Not just with Emma, but with anyone like her. The next few days were chaotic, but satisfying. My lawyer moved fast, just as we'd planned. The paperwork was finalized. Locks were changed. Joint accounts closed. Credit cards canceled. The clean break I'd been preparing for was finally here. I moved into the apartment I'd quietly rented weeks earlier, a small, modern place tucked away downtown. Nothing fancy, just mine. Meanwhile, the fallout from Sienna's dinner party was like a bomb had gone off. Emma's friends wasted no time. They turned on her like wolves. The humiliation? Viral. At least among that petty little circle. Screenshots of group chats started circulating fast. Apparently, the very people who used to raise a glass with her were now passing around every embarrassing detail. Riley sent me a few screenshots. One read, "Did you see Emma's face? Absolute gold." Another, "Honestly, she had it coming. Maybe next time don't treat your husband like trash." And another, "LMAO. She really thought he'd keep paying forever." It was brutal, but I can't lie, it was satisfying. Emma finally saw it. Saw the truth. Her entire social life was fake. Without the money, without the ability to flaunt luxury trips and designer clothes. She had zero value to those friends. And watching her realize that, sweet justice. Within days, she packed up and moved out of the place. I didn't even have to say anything, just came home to find her stuff gone. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she'd ended up in a tiny studio apartment across town. Word was, she was trying to spin the whole thing like it was mutual, that we'd agreed to part ways peacefully, but no one was buying it. The gossip moved faster than she ever could. People talked. They always do. And Emma? She couldn't hide from any of it. The financial blow hit her like a freight train. All her credit cards cut. Every single one had been tied to my accounts, and the moment I shut them down, so went the spa days, the designer bags, the weekend getaways. All gone. She tried getting in touch with me. Texts, voicemails, even had the audacity to show up at my workplace once. I shut her down, each and every time. Not with anger, not with yelling, just silence, cold and absolute. I had zero interest in her apologies, zero tolerance for her guilt trips. There was no reconciliation coming, no closure. She didn't deserve either. Her messages were all over the place. 1 minute, it was desperate. I messed up. Please, just talk to me, just once. Then swinging to threats. If you think I'm going to let you ruin me and walk away, think again. I'll make you regret this. I didn't even blink. Letting her spiral without any reaction from me, that felt better than anything she could have said. My friends, meanwhile, came through hard, stronger than ever. Turns out, most of them had hated her guts. They just hadn't wanted to say anything while I was still with her. Classic. One buddy joked, so we're allowed to say she was a horrible person now, right? We laughed. God, that laugh felt good. About 2 weeks after the explosion at Sienna's dinner, Riley messaged me again. She said Emma had practically vanished from the group. Nobody invited her anywhere. Everyone ignored her like she didn't exist. She burned every bridge, Riley wrote. She's finally seeing the reality she created for herself. Apparently Emma was completely isolated now. Her reputation in ruins. People finally saw her for who she really was. Shallow, manipulative, cold. Normally, I'm not one to celebrate someone else's misery. But this was justice. My family, too, rallied behind me. Especially my mom. When I finally told her everything, how long I'd put up with the disrespect, the lies, the games, she just hugged me tightly. Then she whispered, "You deserve so much better than that. Honey, I'm glad you finally realized it." That hit me. Hard. But in the best way. I'd forgotten what genuine support felt like. With Emma gone, my finances balanced fast. Without her reckless spending, my account stabilized. No surprise Amazon packages. No random emergencies that somehow required spa visits or handbags. For once, I didn't have to constantly worry about money. Instead, I started thinking about me. Trips I wanted to take. Places I'd always wanted to see. Things I wanted to do, just because I wanted to, not because I was trying to impress or appease anyone. A few months after everything blew up, Emma disappeared from my world entirely. Occasionally, I'd hear vague updates through mutual friends. She'd burned through the little savings she had left, took up some retail job somewhere, tried to lay low, probably hoping the gossip would fade and people would forget her spectacular downfall. But me? I barely thought about her. I was too busy living my life. Then one random afternoon, everything shifted again. I'd stopped by a small cafe near my office, nothing fancy. Just grabbing a coffee, catching up on some emails. It was quiet, relaxing. Exactly the kind of moment Emma would have called boring. Nothing flashy, just peace. A good cup of coffee, low music, and my laptop open, catching up on some emails, finally feeling like my life was mine again. Then I heard it. That voice. Soft, hesitant, familiar enough to make my stomach clench, my heart skip in a way I hated. I looked up slowly, half annoyed, already knowing who it was before my eyes even confirmed it. Of course, Emma. She stood there near the counter, fidgeting, pretending to glance at the menu like she hadn't already noticed me. Her posture was tight, her eyes scanning the room like she wasn't sure she should even be here. She looked different, not in the way that makes you pause and reconsider. No, she looked tired, worn out, defeated. Eventually, she took a few small steps in my direction, hesitating with every movement like she expected to be shoved away at any second. "Hey," she said finally, voice low and unsure, trying for a smile that barely made it to her lips. I stared at her, blank, emotionless, no reaction. Just enough time passed for her to squirm before I replied, flat and cold. "Hey." I didn't stand, didn't smile, didn't invite her to sit. She needed to know immediately I wasn't playing whatever game she thought she was walking into. Emma fidgeted again. Her fingers tugged lightly at the hem of her sleeve. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, nervously glancing around like maybe the walls would start whispering our conversation. "We're talking now," I said calmly, not looking away. "What do you want?" She flinched. Subtle, but there. She hadn't expected bluntness. Good. She took a breath, like she was bracing herself. I wanted to apologize," she began, eyes down. "For everything." I said nothing, just stared at her, waiting, letting her twist in the weight of her own words. "I was horrible to you." she continued, voice cracking slightly. I took you for granted. Treated you badly. I realize that now. Losing you. It made me see how messed up I was. I kept my expression still, unmoved. The silence stretched. She squirmed again under my gaze. She didn't recognize this version of me. She wasn't supposed to. I was hoping. She hesitated, voice smaller than ever. Maybe we could start over? Just as friends or something. I miss having you around. That made me laugh. Not bitter. Not angry. Just amused. Friends. I echoed, shaking my head, almost pitying how far gone she was. We were never friends, Emma. We were barely even married. I leaned back slightly, watching her carefully. You used me. That's all there ever was. Her eyes welled up instantly, red-rimmed and embarrassed. She looked like she wanted to crawl under the floor. Please, she whispered, almost choking on the words. Just give me another chance. I've changed. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, my tone quiet but cutting. Have you though? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Or is it just because you need someone to pay your bills again? Your friends dumped you. Your lifestyle's gone. And suddenly you want me back? That's some convenient timing. Her face flushed deep red. She didn't even deny it. Didn't say a word. Just looked away. That silence told me everything I needed to know. You know, I said coolly, keeping my voice steady, you were right about one thing. She looked up slowly. I was pathetic. Pathetic for tolerating your manipulation. Pathetic for being good to you. For giving you everything you didn't even bother to appreciate. I shook my head once. But you did me a favor, Emma. You woke me up. Tears ran freely down her cheeks now. But I felt nothing. No guilt. No pity. She deserved this. Every second of it. You don't miss me. I went on, voice even. You miss having control. But that guy, the one you manipulated, mocked? He's gone. For good. She opened her mouth, desperation written all over her face, scrambling for something, anything to say, to salvage what she thought she could still save. And then, I cut her off immediately. There's nothing left to say. I told her, my voice low and firm. Move on. I have. I didn't wait for a response. I stood slowly, grabbed my coffee, and slid my chair back with calm, measured control. She stared up at me, wide-eyed and helpless, the last remnants of her composure crumbling around her. Completely defeated. I paused for just a second, looked down at her calmly. No malice. No anger. Just finality. Oh, I added quietly, and don't ever approach me again. We're done. Then I turned and walked away. No hesitation. No looking back. I didn't need to. She was already sitting there, small and humiliated, finally forced to see the reality she'd created for herself. She had played the game for so long, convinced she'd always be one step ahead. But this time, the mask was gone, and I was already out the door. That was the last time I ever saw her. After that day, Emma never reached out again. No texts. No calls. No ambushes at work. It was like she vanished. And I didn't hear about her either, not from mutual friends, not from curious acquaintances. I didn't ask. I didn't care. I was free. Really, truly free. For the first time in years, I felt at peace with everything. The life I was building now, it was mine. Uncomplicated. Honest. One that no one could touch, twist, or take from me again. A few months passed, and eventually, I started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just stepping back into the world, relearning what it felt like to connect without caution or guilt. It felt strange but good. Then I met someone different. Really different. She noticed the small things. Thanked me for the little gestures. Smiled when I remembered something she liked. She didn't expect expensive gifts or some Instagram-worthy grand gesture. She just appreciated me. One evening, I gave her something I'd made with my own hands, a small wooden carving. Simple. Personal. Nothing flashy. She lit up, eyes wide with genuine excitement, holding it like I'd just handed her the world. That moment hit hard, because in that smile, I saw everything I'd been missing. With Emma, it had never been like that. It was always bigger, more expensive, more extravagant. Nothing was ever enough. My time, my money, my energy. It had all been taken and twisted into some performance she expected me to maintain forever. But this was appreciation. Real, effortless, human appreciation. It made me realize how deeply unbalanced everything had been before. How much I'd allowed myself to give while getting nothing in return. It had never been about keeping score, but damn, I had felt like a human wallet. With this woman, though, I wanted to spoil her because she made me feel valued just by being kind. Sometimes, late at night, I think back. I wonder how different things might have been if I hadn't overheard Emma mocking me that night. If Riley hadn't sent me that recording. If I'd never found out. I'd probably still be there. Blind. Giving. Trapped. Miserable without even realizing it. But I did find out. And for that I'm grateful. As for what's next, I'm just going to live. No more stress. No more games. No more toxic people feeding off my kindness. Just living life the way I want. On my terms. And for the first time in forever, I'm genuinely excited about the future. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.